This video is kindly brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to create a beautiful online presence. Hi, my name's Janelle and welcome back to another Cozy Sew With Me video. Today is pretty much my first full day of sewing since coming back from living in Japan for 6 months, and to say I'm excited is definitely an understatement. In this video, I'm going to be making the Ella dress by the pattern designer Serger. This is the first time I'm having a go at this particular designer's patterns, and I'm hoping it goes well because I am completely in love with all of the sewing patterns they have produced so far. This dress is absolutely beautiful. It's a lot more formal than the types of dresses I usually go for when I'm sewing, which I'm very excited about because who doesn't love wearing fancy formal dresses? And I just absolutely love so many different elements of this dress. The super long skirt, the low neckline with the tie-up detail at the front I think is absolutely beautiful, and obviously the sleeves are just divine as well. I am just so excited to have a go at making this dress for myself. I am making this dress out of some beautiful burnt orange rayon fabric. I'm not 100% sure how the rayon is going to go with this style. It does call for like quite drapey type fabrics and like cotton linen blends and things like that. So hopefully the rayon isn't too drapey, but I feel like it's going to work pretty nicely. But yeah, I just love wearing rayon dresses. I just find them to be so flowy and comfortable, and it's just a really easy type of fabric to wear because it doesn't crinkle very much. And I just think this style of dress in a plain burnt orange is just going to be absolutely dreamy. I am so excited about it. But first up, I need to actually cut out the template pieces in my size and then cut the template pieces out in my fabric. So yeah, let's get on with that because the sooner that's done, the sooner we can start the fun part, which is the sewing. So the plan is to make this version here. I've just done my measurements and I'm pretty sure my size is going to be this second size here. The finished garment measurements are a little bit more roomy, which is definitely a good thing because I'm right on the cusp of especially the waist of this size. While I get busy cutting this dress out in my fabric, let's just take a quick break to talk about the sponsor of this video. This video has been very kindly sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to create a beautiful online presence and launch your passion project. Whether you'd like to start making and selling your own products, create a beautiful portfolio to showcase your work, write a blog, or simply create any website of any kind, you can design and create your dream website all by yourself with Squarespace. You simply select from one of their beautifully designed templates, and once you've picked your template, you can then customize it completely. You can change everything from the overall layout of the website to all the fun things like the fonts and colors with just a few clicks. No background or knowledge needed in coding whatsoever. Something that I find so great about Squarespace is the fact that they have this amazing resource, which is their discussion forum. Basically, if you want to add something to your website that isn't necessarily a preset feature as part of the Squarespace template you've chosen, you can go to this discussion forum, search whatever it is you want to add to your website, and there is a very high chance that your inquiry has already been answered by a whole range of different people. Just the other day, I realized that I hadn't specified on my website that the prices were in Australian dollar, and so I went to the discussion forum and just typed in how to add currency to your Squarespace website, and this helpful forum popped up that had the exact code I needed to just input into the back end of my website, and Now I have AUD listed on my website. It was as easy as that. So if you'd like to create a website of your own, then make sure you head to Squarespace using the link in the description below and take advantage of their free trial so you can really test out just how easy it is to use for yourself. And then when you're ready to launch your beautiful new website, head to squarespace.com/Rosery Apparel for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you so much Squarespace for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to sewing. Why does cutting out take so long? I have literally been cutting out this dress for hours. I started at around 9 and it's nearly 12 o'clock. Like, this is taking such a long time. I think it's because a lot of the pieces are cut on the bias and need to be cut one at a time instead of folding the fabric in half and just cutting 2 out at the same time. I have to cut each piece out one by one. This last piece I'm actually cutting 2 at the same time, but yeah, it's been a process, but finally up to cutting out the last piece. The pieces are actually really interesting as well. Like, this is the sleeve and bodice piece, and the sleeve is actually cut on the bias, which is interesting. And all of the pieces, just looking at them, don't look like much, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this garment actually comes together. I think it's going to be unlike any dress I've made before. Okay, I have finished cutting out the dress at last. Oh my goodness, that took way longer than expecting. I'm actually going to take a break now because my back is needing a break for sure, and I'm ready for some lunch. And then after lunch, I can finally get started on actually sewing this dress up. So it looks like we're starting with the bodice of the dress, and we have to like put some interfacing at the underarm section. So that's what I'm going to get started with first, and then we actually attach. This is what I mean by like the pieces are so interesting. Like, this piece is the bodice front and this is the bodice back, and they get attached by sewing the shoulder seam together. So that is actually the shoulder seam, which is like attaching both of the sleeve front and backs together, which just looks so different to any dress I've put together before. And I love that. I love like learning new ways to construct a garment, I guess. Hopefully I get this part right because it looks a little bit complicated, I'm not gonna lie. After I've attached the interfacing, I then set my sewing machine up with a matching thread colour and start by stay stitching the underarm point where the interfacing has been attached. I then snip up into the seam allowance of the underarm, being very careful to not accidentally snip the stay stitching. Next, with right sides together, I pin and sew the sleeve front to the sleeve back at the shoulder edges. I've even gone all out today and changed the colour of my overlocking thread, which I never do. That is how much I want this dress to be perfect. After another quick read of the instructions, I start to piece the lower sleeve and the side bodice together, which I have to admit was starting to confuse me a little bit. Okay, we have these two pieces here. It's a side bodice and a lower sleeve, and I have no idea how they're going to attach to this dress or where they're supposed to go. Yeah, I'm really intrigued because they get attached together like this, and it should probably be, so yeah, I guess like this will become the side of the dress maybe. I'm very intrigued. Also, side note, there are no pockets in this dress, which is why this might be the side of the dress, because there's no way of actually putting an inseam pocket. Obviously, I'm slightly disappointed with the lack of pockets, but I think with this style of dress, it's obviously not possible. We'll find out anyway. If it is possible, I will try and add pockets, but just looking at the pieces I'm working with at the moment, it's looking like it's not really possible for this dress. I then pinned the now attached lower sleeve and side bodice to the sleeve and bodice pieces, which in order to do that, I had to make the underarm area that I just snipped lay flat so that it would match up nicely with the side seam of the lower sleeve and side bodice piece. Once stitched in place, it was actually pretty amazing to see how by doing these last few steps worked to create pretty much the whole bodice of the dress. You can definitely see the relationship between the sleeves and the bodice a lot more clearly now. Next, I changed the stitch length of my sewing machine to the longest possible setting and sewed a couple of rows of gathering stitches along the neckline of the bodice. And once the gathering stitches had been gathered up, the bodice was starting to really take shape. I then pinned and stitched the skirt front and back pieces together. So we have the completed skirt, we've got the completed bodice, and I think I'm going to leave it now until tomorrow to attach them together. So far I am loving how this dress is coming together, and I just cannot wait to attach the bodice to the skirt and try it on and see how it looks. I am just obsessed. I'm loving it so far. Okay, ready for day 2 of sewing this dreamy, dreamy dress. I am so excited to actually attach the bodice to the skirt today and hopefully be able to try it on and see how it's looking. This particular style of dress is definitely different to the styles I normally go to. I definitely feel a bit more comfortable wearing gathered dresses around my tummy area, so I'm interested to see how I feel in this dress. Everyone I have seen wearing this dress just looks absolutely beautiful. It's such a feminine style. Like, I don't know, there's just something so magical about this dress design, and the pattern itself has been such a dream to make so far. I know I talked about it yesterday, but it's unlike any pattern that I've ever worked with. Like the way the pieces are put together and the construction of this dress is just fascinating and yeah, just really cleverly done. Also, how nice is this mug that Matt got me for my birthday? Oh my goodness, I'm obsessed with it. I saw it in a shop in Japan and loved it, but it was too expensive, so I decided not to get it. And then he went back to the shop a few days later and picked it up and kept it as a surprise until my birthday, and it made me cry. Basically, I need to attach, let me just turn the brightness down so you can see. Basically, I need to attach the bodice, so this is the gathering of the bodice I've done, onto the curved area of the skirt. It looks like this is going to take quite a bit of precision to get the center lines matched up correctly. Especially, I don't want that center front line looking crooked on this dress. So yeah, I'm just going to take my time with it. It even suggests, like, I don't know if you can see that, but like marking out the seam allowance so you get it perfect. So I think I might even take the time to do that just so I get it right. It's not 100% perfect. I would have really liked it if that center line was right in the tip of the triangle there, but it's not bad. I think I'm just going to keep it as it is because who knows if I can get it that close again if I unpicked it and tried again. But yeah, what do you say? Shall we give this dress a try on? Let's see how it looks. Also, hopefully the front tie that's going to be sitting right in that triangle area will cover the fact that the center seam isn't exactly perfect. Okay, I'm just taking this on my phone just so I can give you a little bit of a look, but oh my goodness, I am obsessed. I just showed Matt and he was like, you look like a fairy princess, and I have to say I feel like a fairy princess as well. It's a little bit gaping at my boob area, so I'm going to try and gather that up slightly more just so I feel a bit more comfortable when wearing the finished garment. But yeah, absolutely in love with how this is looking and love the length as well. It's perfect. Yay. It's now time to attach the zip, and annoyingly the closest color I could get to this burnt orange color is this kind of like mushroom grey. It was either a toss up between this and like yellow or white. So I thought at least this is like kind of a muted color. It won't stand out too much, but I'm going to try and sew as closely to the zipper teeth as possible so you will hopefully not be able to see this lighter zip in the back. Wish me luck with that. Okay, zip is in and I'm actually going to go head out for some lunch. I'm meeting my cousin at a new cafe that's opened up in town and it is so cute. I went there with Matt a couple of days ago and I'm excited to go back and actually try some of the food this time. It is currently 11 o'clock, so it's an early lunch, but yeah, perfect time is any to have a break, I guess. back from lunch and I'm just so excited to get back into sewing this dress. I am so happy with it so far. I wasn't exactly sure how this style was going to look on me or if I was going to feel comfortable in it, but so far I think it's going to be okay. Hopefully. Now I think we have to work on the bias binding and the tie at the front of the dress, which I'm really looking forward to doing because sadly my gathering has snapped and come undone at the front here, which I'm really upset about. I hope that doesn't cause any issues when it comes to gathering up the neckline. So I then got to work making the bias binding, starting with the longer piece that will make up the front tie. Then I started on the bias binding that will nicely finish the neckline, and this was some serious sewing construction engineering, which I don't even think I'll be able to explain, so hopefully by watching you can see how this V-neck bias binding comes together. It was pretty magical. Are you seeing that? The bias binding has like been ironed and folded to make the perfect point. It was literally like the most magical thing ever. You basically start with 2 pieces of bias binding with this zigzag shape at the join, and then this happens. I just had no idea looking at the instructions how it was going to work, but it just does. I then hand sew part of the bias binding to the neckline to help make the whole attaching process a lot easier. And then I attach the rest of the bias binding using my sewing machine. Okay, that may well have been the most fiddliest thing I have ever done, but the neckline is finally complete. It is looking so cute. I still need to attach the tie at the front here, but I think I'm gonna do that last and instead just focus on finishing off these sleeves, even though I do love the fairy princess vibes that these sleeves are currently giving. I think the puff sleeves are just gonna be the cherry on top. To finish the sleeves, I hem the bottom edge, leaving a small opening to be able to thread some elastic through. I then thread the elastic into the casing. Once thread all the way through, I sew the 2 ends of the elastic together with a zigzag stitch, and then sew the opening closed. I am literally so close to being done. The neckline's done, the zip's in, the sleeves are finished, but I am quickly losing light and yeah, my back is starting to hurt quite a bit, so I think I need to stop sewing for the day. But that means next time I sit down to work on this project, all I'm going to need to do are like the finishing touches for this dress. I still need to attach the front bow tie, and I also need to hem the dress. And I need to add a little hook and eye fixture at the back of the dress where the zip doesn't quite reach the top of the dress. And because the skirt of the dress is cut quite a lot on the bias, I think it's going to be good to let the dress hang for a little bit, just so the fabric can drop a little bit before I actually hem it, because there's nothing worse than hemming rayon and then the dress drops a little bit lopsided, so then your hem's crooked. I think it's good to leave the dress as it is for now and get back to it in a couple of days. And so after a few days break, I finally get started on the finishing touches of this dress, starting with attaching the front tie. I then hand sew a hook and eye to the back of the dress, And lastly, I hem the entire bottom edge of the dress. And my dreamy Ella dress is finally finished. Let me put some shots in now so you can get a good proper look at this finished dress. I am so in love with this dress. It is a completely different style to what I normally go for, and I wasn't sure how I was going to feel wearing it, but I honestly feel incredible in this dress. I can't even begin to describe it. It just is so elegant and luxurious. There's just something so lovely about it, and I'm just so glad I gave this pattern a go. By far, this pattern has been one of the most interesting patterns I've ever worked with in terms of how this dress was actually constructed. There were so many moments where I just could not imagine how the pieces were going to go together to create this dress, but every time it all just kind of worked out like magic. It was, yeah, one of those projects that, I don't know, it was just a project unlike any I have ever worked on, and because of that I think this is now my favorite pattern ever. Especially how the sleeves were constructed. I just am amazed at the magic that went into creating this pattern. It is incredible. I have been sharing a few behind the scenes shots over on Instagram as I've been making this dress, and I had a few questions asking whether or not this pattern was a good one for beginners, and I definitely think it's better suited to more advanced sewers. I even found some of the steps to be pretty tricky and fiddly. Definitely doable, like not too difficult by any stretch, but like just that little bit more extra care had to be taken in a lot of the steps, which I kind of find really satisfying. But if you're a complete beginner, it may be a little bit intimidating and a little bit hard to get the fabric to work the way you want to, I guess. But if you've watched this video and thought you are up for the challenge, I definitely recommend you give it a go, because it is such a fun make. Like, that's the only way I can describe it. I had such a ball making this dress. I opted for rayon fabric, which I think isn't technically the preferred fabric recommended for this pattern. The pattern suggests using more of a like cotton rayon blend or a linen cotton blend, something with a tiny bit more structure. But I have to say, I am just so over the moon with how the rayon looks in this design. It just is so floaty and magical, and I genuinely feel like a fairy princess. It's just the most divine dress to wear. But in saying that, it was very tricky to work with the rayon fabric. It was very slippery and fiddly and frustrating to work with at times, but I'm glad I persevered because the end result is seriously magical. I am so happy with it. And lastly, in terms of sizing, I went with the second size of the pattern. I can't remember the European numbers, but I'll put them on the screen now. And that was like pretty much spot on for my measurements, and I risked not making a mock-up version of this pattern first, but I'm glad I just cut into my good fabric because it fits like a glove. Like, it is perfect in terms of fit on me. I do have a smaller bust, so I'm not sure how this style of dress would go if you were larger in the bust area, but I actually found that this gathering was a great way to kind of customize how plunging the neckline is. Like, if your bust measurement is smaller than what the pattern suggests and you're in between sizes, I think it might be better to like focus on your hips and waist measurement, because you can play around with the finished size of the bust to a certain extent. But yeah, it has been so nice to be reunited with my sewing machine. This is my first dressmaking project that I've completed since I got home, and what a banger to start with. I had so much fun making this dress. It's been a lot of fun to document the whole process as well, so yeah, stay tuned for more sew with me type videos like this. I think I want to make a lot more going forward. So in saying that, please let me know what pattern you would like to see me sew up next. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video until the very end, and I will see you in the next one.